setup there.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I'm Matt.
And I'm Dave.
And you may notice a slightly different setup today. We're just experimenting. Well, I'm experimenting with a different work setup. So anyway, important to you. Today's topic is going to be Amazon Prime. And we're going to be discussing, is this a good thing for customers? Is it a good thing for you? The growth, the ins and outs of Amazon Prime. Because Dave, this kind of all stems back to an email which you got. So we're not going to mention the chap's name. But Dave, could you just give us like an insight to the email which we received? Because I think this is kind of, it is an interesting topic.
It is. Yeah, absolutely. And it's one that, it's funny enough, an email which came in yesterday, and this sort of set the tone for today's webinar. It came into the eSeller Cafe email, and like I said, won't mention the guy's name. He's a guy, give that away already. But he said, "Good morning. I was wondering if your site, as in eSeller Cafe, has given any thought to the sustainability of Amazon Prime. As a third-party seller, it is too costly to effectively sell products through SFP." Now, that's one point which we will come to in a moment. As a buyer, I see that so many Prime items are so grossly overpriced to cover the shipping costs that I can't imagine how much longer Amazon can support the program without shoppers moving away from items marked as Prime. If that happens, goodbye $119 per member, which is the new Prime membership level that they've just released in America. Just curious what you think. Perhaps I am crazy and Amazon will continue to convince people that $119 per year and overpriced items is the future of e-commerce. Obviously, see, there's a bit of tongue-in-cheek there, but that's a genuine email that we had from a seller and a buyer regarding Amazon Prime.
Yeah, and it's very much of a curious one because to set the tone where we are right now, is that Amazon in the US have just literally said they're going to be increasing the Prime subscription to $119 per month. Now, Dave, that doesn't, you can have a top line figure at $119 per month, but obviously there may be discounts over a year, and it's yet to hit the ground properly, if that makes sense. But even still, the headline figure is $120. Give or take a few cents. And here in the UK, Dave, is it £89 now?
It's funny. I always feel embarrassed with this because I don't know. I know it goes out the account and it's just, for me, no-brainer value, so I don't even look for it.
Yeah.
But I think it's around £89 or something like that. It used to be 79. I think they upped it to 89.
And that, by the way, that was me politely asking Dave what it was because I didn't have a clue myself. And Dave's just come back with exactly the same answer, which I would have given you, which is that I just don't know, if that makes sense. And I just don't want to check. So cool. So Dave, let's go back to what the chap had said there, is that Prime potentially not being a worthwhile proposition for him as a business owner. Do you see that as being valid?
For him as a business owner, so again, if he's talking about seller fulfilled Prime, then as with all things Amazon, when it comes to shipping, there's some which I always remember there was an account manager I used to know, DPD, and he always used to call them uglies. And there's always going to be some ugly products which it's the big bulky ones which take up a lot of room in warehouses and take up a lot of room on vans, and therefore get, with volumetric pricing, they get stung. So for some products, SFP is probably going to be a little bit expensive. But
yeah,
if
that's been the same all along, hasn't it?
Yeah, always.
It's always been the same. It's going to suit some products, but definitely not going to suit others.
Exactly. If you're selling safes or barbecues or hot tubs, chances are SFP is not going to be a great thing for you.
I tell you what, just Dave, I want to go very quickly off topic. This morning, I was looking for lawn seed from A1 Lawn, which is where I've bought the lawn seed from before. They actually turned up on Amazon in Prime as well, 10 kilo, which is 2 5-kilo sacks. Yeah. They've worked out that they can put it in Prime.
So I mean, exactly, 10 kilo to me would sound like an ugly sort of weight and size, but clearly for A1 gardening or whatever it's called, SFP or Prime works. So I would say that, yeah, while it's fair that whoever, like I said, wrote the email, may have had some problems with the pricing of SFP. I think, and yes, I know there's a lot of hoops you have to jump through in order to maintain, Amazon's, approval rating to meet the criteria. But if it works, it works, and ultimately, to have the little blue Prime logo next to your name is like dynamite for sales.
I'll just unmute myself there, and apologies, I have just been playing around with the setup to get it more appropriate for you. So yeah, it's a curious one. I'm going to completely disagree with this chap. And again, Dave, you've been very polite there, saying that with the vast majority of that seller's products may not be suitable to Prime at all. So because it's going to be expensive for him to use the Amazon Fulfill network, which is just the way the cookie crumbles, to be honest. It really depends upon your products, because the basic rule of thumb is that if it fits in a shoebox and doesn't weigh a ton, it's probably worthy of FBA. And obviously, if it's about £15, $20-ish, then it should be seriously considered for FBA. But on the other side of the table here, Dave, is that we're both customers of Amazon, and we both pay Prime for our Prime subscription.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even worry about how much it costs. So it's £89, which is about $120.
Richard commented in the chat and said it's £79 in the UK still. So
it's 80 quid. So it's about $100 here in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that neither of us, me or Dave, and please do pass on your comments as well, we don't even bat an eyelid at that as consumers, because we do see it as fantastic value for money. From the product point, again, I need to make a distinction here from the product point of view, because literally, I'll go and check on my own Amazon account in a moment. I know that I've got 2 items turning up tomorrow. Today, I've already had a K&N filter for the car turn up. That came from Amazon. That was next day delivery, ordered yesterday and turned up this morning. Brilliant. There is a slight irony, is that we were chatting about A1 lawn earlier and some grass seed. And I found it very peculiar that it was in FBA for $34.95 for 10 kilos. And so that number one tells me that they've got a decent margin in that product to be able to do that. But ironically, I didn't actually buy it from Amazon. I actually bought that lawn seed from eBay on the premise that the lawn seed is probably fresher coming from their warehouse directly, rather than lawn seed which has come from their warehouse, gone to FBA, and then is going to go on and get sent to me. So that was such a weird one this morning, but it is worth noting that sometimes FBA doesn't make sense. There's always like an edge case, and that was like the first edge case for me in absolutely ages. But coming back onto the topic, FBA, Prime, I only ever buy Prime items from Amazon. The only time when I go to eBay is for an odd product, or I need a cheap product. So what I'm basically saying there is that I have a very odd requirement, some which I can't find necessarily I find on Amazon via Prime or another site, or I want the cheapest price possible for a product, and I don't mind waiting. And if that kind of is the scenario, that's eBay all over. And I'll quite happily wait. And if it takes 2 weeks or 3 weeks to turn up, that's fine. Another example there is AliExpress as well. Literally had some daylight running lights turn up this morning for the car as well. They were ordered 2 weeks ago from AliExpress, $130. So that kind of tells you that I'm quite confident with AliExpress as a site as a whole, and the bits which I've ordered off there. And yeah, it takes 2 weeks to turn up, but it was cheaper than anything which I could find on eBay, and then anything which I could find in the UK as well. So I just wanted to put that into perspective. Like from the shipping side, Prime is absolute fantastic value for money. The one thing which I don't like about Amazon Prime is that I do feel their Amazon Video is not very good. They have a couple of series which are like Lucifer, for example, which are specific to Amazon Video. But everything else, the good stuff, is not available. It's you have to buy it, in short.
Yeah,
So
I would agree with you on that, in the fact that I recently just got dragged into watching Designated Survivor, which is a Netflix original. Brilliant. I'd totally recommend that. But if I've never got dragged into an Amazon original series, really. And yeah, I totally get what you're saying. For me, Netflix is still ahead of the game when it comes to instant video. However, Jeff Bezos, I believe last year at the end of 2017, publicly said in an earnings call that he's basically instructed the instant video team to make the next Game of Thrones style blockbuster. So he's throwing money at it. And, you know, I wouldn't bet against Amazon coming out with something good, but at the minute, I agree, instant video isn't really there. Amazon Music's okay. I do have the music app. But I'd say the big thing for me, Matt, with Prime, again, as like the one within my family that has the Prime account, is that my parents can use it. I can get things delivered to my parents' address. They can use the Prime benefits. And it adds to that value. And just to quickly look at the chat here, going back to what we talk about shipping, Jim, thank you for commenting, Jim. He said, I have to change the shipping to Prime on Thursday because it gives me until Monday to ship, so I get to use a cheaper shipping method. That's a nice little hack there, Jim. I quite like that. James from Hobbybase has said, my view on this, the more control you give to Amazon, the more business you're actually giving away. Amazon don't want to help my business or any others. They're ruthless and only in it for themselves. I'd rather focus on things which I can control in the long term, such as my own website. And whilst, I mean, I would be likely to agree with James there. You know, focusing on the website is a great thing to do. I also think that, you know, you should still maximize your potential on the marketplaces. And if your products fit with FBA or SFP, then that is going to see a much larger boost in selling products. And as long as you're still making profit, it makes sense.
Yeah, I think that is the case as well. So we don't want to go into too much of a discussion over multi-channel marketing and should you have eggs in many baskets, which the answer is,
we've been there, done that before.
For that's very much of a no-brainer. But I think we can all see his sentiment there with Amazon. There are fundamental differences between the marketplaces out there. And well done, thumbs up for definitely chasing the website, because that has the potential to be one of the biggest assets for your company. So maybe you're looking forward into the future, for example, is that to be able to go on and sell your business and say, well, we sell on eBay and Amazon, and you can imagine like a third party going, that sounds complicated, and which you're probably going to think, yeah, it is a little bit complicated. And then you say, oh, our website, we do this through it, and we do this kind of traffic, and it's growing like this over the X number of years. And that's going to really perk an outsider's interest towards the business, because of you have that tangible asset, which they have, not just a trading ID on one of the two marketplaces, which is great to bring the revenue up for the business, but to be able to then say you got this website on the side, kind of a no-brainer to do. So definitely thumbs up from that point of view. Steering ourselves back onto Amazon Video, where we just chatted a few moments ago. Actually, a little bit ironic is that in their latest the latest report from Amazon is that AWS, their Amazon Web Services, are just growing.
Oh, it's crazy.
The bit of irony which I wanted to throw in there is that Netflix uses AWS to drive their site. So they're actually using Lambda and a collection of their other services. So there's some irony there.
So the better Netflix does, Amazon still wins, because they're making more calls for AWS. The beauty of owning everything.
Yeah.
When your competitors do well,
if you think about this logically, Netflix is a competitor to Amazon, but Netflix are not that bothered to be that Amazon are a competitor from the technical services side for them to use it. And they really are. That's no lie. That's what they're using. They're actually using Amazon for running their business on. And when you think about it logically, the dev team, the tech team are basically saying this is a fantastic service which Amazon are offering. It makes sense to do it. money has probably a massive factor to do with this. It's obviously much cheaper or more sensible for them to use AWS compared to their own solutions or a third party. Because do keep in the back of your mind, as much as Google would like to say that they have cloud services, is that we all know that they like cloud service functions and stuff like that. Beta. They could take them away at any points in time, and no business which has got any form of common sense in it will actually use those services. For example, Google, the URL shortener, something which has been around for years, goes next year. No warning, just gone. It's gone. So they're just suggesting go and use Bitly or something else instead. So why would you base your business on something which they classed as a beta, and you now know that it may just roll on for years, or they may just go and gone? So anyway, I've managed to drag ourselves back off topic again. So yeah, a little bit of irony there for you. Netflix actually use Amazon or their services for their video content.
And we've got, just heading back to the chat, Matt, briefly, we've got John Hayes. Thank you, John, for joining us. John said, fantastic value for money, Prime. When you consider the cost of parking, just a couple of items a month and you are quids in. Yeah, from a buyer's point of view, what is it, £80, $110 a year? Yeah, I mean, like I said, that's if you're going into major city. I mean, what I think if you're parking in the city centre of Manchester these days, you can be paying 10 quid for 3 hours. You know, are you going to make more than 8 trips a year to the city centre? Yeah, you probably are. Or if you're taking public transport, 8 quid, depending on how many people are with you, 6 quid. So again, if you know the traditional retail route, Amazon just makes sense. Prime.
Yeah, and great, Dave. This is great. It's great. An example is that my most recent non-marketplace, non-online purchase-ish was from Whole Foods, and the only reason I bought it from Whole Foods and used their click and collect service, and that was for a diesel additive for the cars, because they were half price. So I bought 6 for £15 instead of 30 quid or whatever it was, and I sent the missus to go and get that on the way to school. To pick the kids up. So
you have to leave the house.
Technically, that was a delivery because it just got delivered to me from the. Well, I had to go and get it from the car. Terrible. So anyway, let's come back to the topic about Prime. And that chap's message in the beginning is that I don't think, but by the signs of it, Prime works out or FBA works out for that seller's inventory specifically. However, Prime is such a curiosity, and the way which I would like to frame this, maybe a different way for you to think about Prime, not only as a consumer but also as a seller, okay, is that maybe, just maybe, Amazon are thinking of Amazon Prime being like Costco. Now, those of you which live in the United Kingdom, Costco is probably still a very new thing to you, but I'm sure if you're based in the US, you've got this backwards. You know this like the back of your hand, which is that Costco is that you pay a yearly membership, and then when you go to their store, which is not really a store, it's a warehouse with some labels on the racking, and instead of just buying one thing, you buy it in pack of 6 or 12. And granted, they will make some money in that transaction, but the way that Costco grows is that they're interested in the memberships, and that's how they make their money. So in their heads is that they make their profits through the memberships, and this is the idea which I'm going to throw to you, which is that maybe that's the way Amazon's thinking. Maybe they're thinking, well, hey, look, the US has got a little bit of expensive for us now to start sending the stuff around. We need to put our prices up. But on the other hand is that, well, look, we've got X number of people paying and now going to be paying us. We're going to lose some, that's for sure. Some people are going to go, wait, that's too expensive for us now. We're out. Which they're not really seeing the value proposition if they are, because it is a good value proposition. And from Amazon's point of view is that they're just going to do a Costco, which is that they're going to take their $119 per, is it month? Per year, sorry, per year. And that's their profit per customer. Wouldn't you like that from like a business point of view, assuming is that you still make money at the end of the day, is that every single year someone sends you $120? and you just have to give them a few cursory things like ship some items out to them, which you like here in the UK, they've basically created their own fulfillment network. So they've got their own warehouses, they've got their own drivers, they have skipped out the middleman wherever possible to try and cut that delivery cost down to a bare minimum. And maybe that's the route which they're looking at. Maybe that's the way which they're going, because it makes more sense. Instead of worrying about making money on every single item, because they have to make money on every single item, they can pick and choose the products which they want to sell, would like to sell, if that makes sense. Because when you're in this kind of position, you've already got your bank balance covered. The products are almost secondary, aren't they? Choose what products you like own or have in your own fulfillment network to the customers to buy, and of course the stuff which Amazon's not interested in, they allowed third parties to fill in those gaps, and it just all kind of works from there. Does that make sense, Dave?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Costco is it's the Prime membership is basically a Costco membership but online, and they've tying in more and more features to the Prime network that it becomes harder for you to do without it. And that's the crucial thing. I think for the first time a few weeks ago, Amazon actually announced, or actually sort of put a stake in the ground and went, here's a rough estimate of how many Prime members we have. That number was over 100 million Prime subscribers, Prime members. That's a hell of a lot of people. That's a huge audience of people who are dedicated to buying from Amazon or enjoy the Amazon experience. And don't get me wrong, Amazon have done fantastically well by introducing Alexa and the Echo devices to tie into that ecosystem, to the point where people's homes are now relying on Amazon in order to run. And it all, like I said to the chap who sent the email in, ultimately, when I look back at the nearly 10 years or so in e-commerce now, the one pattern which always remains the same is convenience. Convenience will always win. And Amazon have just done a fantastic job of they've done basically what Apple did years ago. When Apple first started out, they got you into the Apple ecosystem. They got using the iOS, they got using iTunes, they got using, on iPads and iPods and iPhones, and all talk to each other. And it was great and so seamless. And that's exactly what Amazon are doing now. You have the instant video, you have music, you have the Kindle and the ebook library, you have Prime for free delivery, and now you have
Audible.
And
Audible. That into the mix. Obviously, that's a separate subscription, but that's also part of
owned by Amazon. And ultimately, you now have the Amazon devices in your home, which you can talk to and order products from the Amazon marketplace to deliver to your home the same or next day. You get trapped, not trapped, but sort of trapped in this Amazon ecosystem. And the problem is, it's that good, you're reluctant to leave. And then that membership of $110 or £79, all of a sudden, it's a convenience.
Yeah, it is very much convenience. I'm just thinking about, again, it wasn't the best experience I've ever had with Amazon in this instance, but I took them up on their Amazon Next Day card, which was 3 months, 0% transactions. Which, well, it doesn't phase me anyway, because we would do it always end up paying like worst customer ever, because I actually pay my bill on time, and we always pay in full. But the thing is that this is one I know I'm going off topic, but I want to make my point here, which is that Amazon as a brand value, they have to like keep on form on what they're doing. And I think from my own personal experience, is literally I phoned them up this morning and actually cancelled the card, because when you know this as well, when something gets subbed out underneath a brand name, if it's not up to scratch with like Amazon's core values, the values, the very high expectations, which both myself, Dave, and I'm sure you do have of Amazon, and then trying to ring a company and having to wait for so long and then not getting replies to messages using their own site, their own contact form, is a disappointment. For me personally, is that, well, I'm like, well, off, I'm out there. You've kind of like lost my business from that point of view. So yeah, I think it was like £13 on the bottom. It will go off as a direct debit or whatever at the end of the month, but that was it. But that's actually a danger point from Amazon's point of view, is that if they do start if they don't do it in-house, this is the point which I'm doing, like with the financial services, is that if they do use a third party, New Day, for example, and that company doesn't perform, which actually, when you look closely now at the reviews on the actual card itself, it shows it's 4 stars, but it is really, really struggling as a service. So that's one thing. Just I know I've gone off topic on this one, but that is a danger to the Amazon brand as a whole, is that with periphery services which are not covered, not specifically owned by Amazon themselves. So we go back to Amazon Video, for example, like you mentioned, Dave, that they're going to go off chasing off the new Game of Thrones.
Yeah, apparently they want the next big thing, The Walking Dead, the Game of Thrones, whatever it may be. And they'll throw cash at it. They're cash rich. They'll throw money at it to make.
Yeah, and the reason why they're cash rich, well, because they've run a very, very lean business model until now, and they bringing it back to the Prime point of view, $120 or 80 quid per customer, it gives them security. That's the word which I'm looking for. Security. Is that they know that they have this recurring income which is coming into the business. They could be treated as development funds to expand on what they're doing, say Amazon Video, for example. And don't forget, you can actually purchase that as a separate subscription as well, I believe, too. Or you can just treat it as profit per customer. And like we said, the purchasing of the products is just like the service, like Costco, for example. But it's a little bit bigger than that.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit, to say the least. Oh, and I'll tell you what we do. And we've mentioned Costco here a couple of times. There is an absolutely fantastic YouTube channel called Company Man. We'll put a link to that in the video description after this live stream's been finished. I personally, I'm subscribed to it. And I think it's a fantastic channel, and it's not just about Costco. The guy does it for many other many other businesses as well, ones which have failed and ones which are doing good. And have a look at the Costco one. That will give you a kind of idea on the guy's presentation style, and then you'll understand why I kind of like it and why you might want to go and take a look at that one as well. Sorry, Dave. I've gone off on that.
No, in fact, John Hayes has just reminded me, because he's just wrote in the chat there, the Grand Tour, and Richard mentioned it as well as, again, another Amazon series. And
Dave, before you go any further on that one, I actually feel the Grand Tour, or those 3 actors as a group, their quality of content has gone down, and it was noticeable from series 1. And I don't even bother watching it anymore. And the reason by the quality has gone down because it is so obviously scripted in what they've done. They've put too much thought into it, because I do, as much as the kickoff between them and the BBC, what happened and stuff, those 3 needed it to work, and to ensure they scripted everything. And it's to the point I don't even watch it anymore. So Amazon Video, from my point of view, is a nice add-on, but we don't use it at all. Well, very, very limited anyway. Sorry, you were saying about.
So I would argue I'm still a big car fan, so I'm a big fan of the guys, and it is comedy. It's not like I say, I understand your point about being scripted, but I like seeing fast cars go around tracks and things.
Yeah.
I would say it's apparent that the budget that Amazon gave them, again, it was reportedly huge. It's very obviously huge. The production quality is much higher than the BBC ever was. But the interesting point here was Amazon have reportedly internally utilize a metric that they call first show to stream. And this is what they try and gauge as a metric as to why people would join Prime. And then the first show that they watch on instant video, they attribute that as a potential reason for them joining Prime. And it turns out that the Grand Tour apparently recorded over 1.5 million people joining Amazon Prime, and that was the Grand Tour was the first show to stream. So that's, again, was that a good move by Amazon? Probably.
That's a lot of cash. I can't even work that out.
So yeah, I mean, if you're talking, again, if we used a pounds version, £79 times 1.5 million,
It's a lot. Let's not even bother trying looking that up. Yeah. It's a lot of dosh.
A lot of cash. And like I said, that's a metric that Amazon apparently use internally to gauge success of shows that they create. So again, like I said, I get Matt's point about being scripted, but like I said, that was a huge gamble by Jeff Bezos and the Amazon team. But looks like it's paid off.
Was it really a gamble? You got 3 experienced actors.
I mean, it was only really a gamble in the amount of money that they shelled out for it. You got to think, is that going to make the return? Well, clearly it did.
Yeah, and again, hindsight's beautiful because you can always look back and stuff and say that they're terribly wrong. You should have never have done that, but you put themselves in the shoes at that point in time. And it's that I think the only risk which they actually took with those 3 was what legal action might come out of the BBC. I think that's the only risk which they had to the actual unit, whether those actors, and you'll notice I'm using the word actors because that's what they are. Those 3 actors had was a good relationship. It was a premium format. They just needed to iron it into Amazon. So
yeah, very interesting. And also just looking back, Richard said Costco has the same problem, but they managed to keep growth even with dealing with other service providers doing the work. Costco basically always says if there's a problem to contact them. That is how Amazon would have to approach that. And again, I remember we covered a story, Richard, on eSale Cafe back in January, where someone returned a Christmas tree to Costco, obviously after Christmas, and Costco accepted the return. I know, Matt, you've got a great Amazon return story as well with this.
Oh, mine doesn't beat that Christmas tree.
I mean, the Christmas tree is ridiculous, but I mean,
there's me like with my hand on my face palming with it. What that person did, but that is technically Costco's return policy. You can buy anything from Costco, and then if it was faulty for whatever reason, you can return it back as long as you've had your subscription going. So that is as long as you've been with them for 1, 2, 3, 4 X years.
And when Matt, you were talking before about having that chunk of cash and whether that's available for devs or whatever. A better part of that is customer retention, keeping customers happy. Customers that have a problem, we want to turn a bad problem or a bad experience into a good experience. And, if that means giving them a full refund, giving them vouchers, giving them gift cards, whatever, in order to keep that brand awareness, keep that Costco brand as being a positive one, keep that Amazon relationship as being a positive one, it means they're going to come back and keep renewing that membership.
Yeah, absolutely. In short, I think you're absolutely right on that one, Dave. It's getting the people to come back and to shell out that money every year. I think it's kind of a no-brainer. So there was very interesting stats as far as the Grand Tour went, because I didn't even know those.
Yeah, it was from a few months ago, but first show to stream, FTTS, first show to stream, or whatever, FSTS. Yeah, that was a metric internally in Amazon that they use, and 1.5 million signups they managed to attribute to the Grand Tour. It's incredible.
Crazy. So sorry, Dave, we were just discussing then about the Costco, and you mentioned Richard had.
Yeah, so again, talking about utilizing sort of other partners, and Richard basically said Costco has the same problem, managed to keep growth even with dealing with other service providers doing the work. He's also added that Costco basically has unlimited returns except for electronics, and they offer 90 days on them, which is 60 days longer than most. So again, it's for everyone who was complaining that eBay is now forcing you to do returns for 30 days in the US, which again, it's always been a legal requirement here in the UK. It goes to show that if you go above and beyond that, you build that trust, it generally will lead to more sales.
Yeah, and that genuinely is the case. The only downside I can see to like the Prime service, that's like from Amazon's point of view, which is something which I nearly did this morning, is that I ordered a computer mouse, which was a replacement for the one which I've got over there, but I almost bought a different one to see which one was best and then to send the other one back. There, because that's one of those things. It's just it's like clothing, isn't it? That's why you.
If you use a keyboard and mouse a lot, you you need to like it if you're going to be using it every day.
I've been through a lot of keyboards and I've been through a
I know.
lot of mice.
Since we've been working together, you've been through about 5 and you still use the original one.
Yeah. And I kid you not, is that I've bought 5 mice and 4 of them have literally gone in the bin. And that I have no issues with saying that I've done something like that before, because when you use something so much for so long, and you've got to think about RSI in your wrists. So that's why you have the gel pads on the desk and things like that, is that you've got to have a mouse which fits comfortably. Because I've used mice before where, and I'm going off topic, but anyway, my point there was that that's the only real risk. But again, clothing, if you're selling clothing, you're used to this idea of free returns, because that's basically what customers do. They will buy 2 of something, and then when one doesn't fit or isn't right, they'll send it back. And you'll always have the person which will buy a dress online or go into New Look or whatever and buy the dress and then take it out for a Friday night on the town and then take it back on Monday morning and say it didn't fit. There's always going to be somebody who takes the piss. And I'm thinking of a half-related family member which buys stuff, uses it, and then takes it back. There's always somebody who's going to do that. There is always somebody who's going to steal from you, whether you like it or not. That's just the way the world works. But that was the only danger side I really see to Amazon. I don't think that is a massive issue as a whole. It probably is for the size of Amazon. It's a considerable amount of money, but in the scheme of things, it's not that big, if that makes sense.
So with that said, what does this mean for e-commerce going forward? You know, I personally can't see Amazon Prime going anywhere. As much as the person in the email was hoping that $120 would turn people away and that the products on Amazon were overpriced, it all boils down to convenience. And right now, from what I see in the UK, there's no one that can really touch Amazon's convenience in terms of same-day delivery, next-day delivery. They've done a fantastic job of quietly, or not so quietly over the years, just building this network, this logistics infrastructure, which makes it almost or very difficult for someone to replicate without the cost that, you know, Amazon have obviously invested over the years. I just can't see a competitor for the Prime membership right now.
I frankly don't either. That is the
reality of it. You know, they have everything. They have the logistics, they have the warehousing, they have the products. They own the pie. They don't own pieces of the pie. They own the whole damn pie.
Yeah. And this is, and can I come off on a tangent here? We've talked exclusively-ish about Amazon Prime. Is that if we look to the competitor eBay, for example, is that this has always been their issue. That number one is that they'll always put forwards that they don't compete with you, and that's something which I picked up, that they use that kind of that language, that they're not a competitor to you in their recent statement.
Yeah, they want to be a partner, not a competitor.
Yeah, exactly, and they're being very, very clear and very, not to say forceful. They're just being they're making a point of it every single time. But the thing is that's still, because they don't own the product, they don't have the products in their hand. That has now caused such a disparity between the two marketplaces, because Amazon can get it here for tomorrow. And I can assure you, I've got 2 packages turning up from Amazon tomorrow. And the only reason I bought an item off eBay today was because of that semi-thought that the lawn seed which I'll be receiving is slightly fresher than what it would have done if it come from an Amazon warehouse, because it's done an extra trip. Whether that logic is flawed or not, it's a different whole thing. But getting to my point is that eBay just don't or can't compete with that now, because they don't have access to they don't have access to the inventory directly. So while they use, say, Argos stores as drop-off points, which was a very, very good idea, is that they're flawed, because they don't have the products in the first place to be able to get it to a customer to the next day. So I only foresee, personally speaking, that eBay deliveries will always and now forever be late compared to Amazon, because Amazon will do same-day delivery here in Bristolia in the United Kingdom. Same for you in Manchester, Dave. and you can literally order in the morning and it'll be with you that evening. I think that's fantastic. And if it's not, if you've missed the window, well, it's quite a late cut off on most items, and it'll be a next day. Sometimes that's in the morning, sometimes that's in the afternoon. To be honest, that's the only bad thing which I can say, is that they're very sporadic in what time of day an item gets delivered. But hey ho, that's me refusing not to pay the extra couple of quid more for before 12 or whatever shipping it was. So yeah, my point which I was trying to make there, eBay, very difficult place for them to now be fighting out of, because Amazon has done so much work, especially around the delivery network point of view. And they have made it, because they now own the whole process, they don't have to put up with someone else's crap, aka raw mail, or USPS or DPD, or whatever courier company they are. They don't have to put up with someone else's politics, somebody else's pricing. And you know, I don't know if you knew this, the delivery guys, is that the guys who do the deliveries for Amazon here in the UK, is that they get if they get 3 people chase where their products are, they lose their bonus. 3 mistakes, and it might not even be a mistake. It might be a case the customer can't find it outside of their house, which I've had here as well. And I know in the back of my head, I'm kind of like, where's the item to? It says it's been delivered. I've been next door and I've been fair about it. And actually, I had one irony, which was delivered up the road. But yeah, 3 mistakes on the delivery driver's point of view, and that's it. They lose their bonus. And do keep in the back of the mind, they're doing 120 plus deliveries a day, obviously in a suburban area. And that's a normal day. So I'd hate to think what a busy day looks like. Absolutely. You see the guys starting at ask him at Christmas, and they're like, they got to be gone. They don't want to talk to you. And it's not because they're being impolite. They've just got to get to the next one, because they're 180 parcels plus for that day. And you can assure you they've been in there since silly o'clock in the morning, trying to sort their vans out and get the items out as well. Crazy. But like they say, it's good money if you're willing to work hard. So
yeah. And I think that, I mean, eBay, sorry, Richard made a point here about eBay, saying, I do start to question eBay's "we are not a competitor" stance when they keep investing more and more in Chinese export e-commerce businesses with warehouses and logistics. It's a fair comment, well made. Yeah, I get your point on that one. And Nick Hartman said, I only buy off eBay when I'm willing to wait and the price is dirt cheap. And that's the thing, it's to the point now where if I go into an independent website, and it's a website which isn't one of you guys, one of the UE guys who I know personally, or who I've reached out to in order to see if you've got something that I'm looking for, I begrudge paying for shipping, because I know if I get it on Amazon, I don't have to pay for shipping. So like I said, unless it's one of you guys, I'm a little bit like, well, why should I? I feel like I've already paid for my shipping in my Amazon Prime membership, so I'll just go and get it on Amazon.
It's great, isn't it? It makes everybody else look bad.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
it's such a curiosity. And by the way, this also highlights the point why customers like free shipping. As much as we all know it's a flawed thing that they're paying for the shipping somewhere. Come on, but that's what the general public likes, is free shipping, and shipping is a barrier to delivery. And by the way, you'll notice that free shipping is what customers like. I didn't say for any second of that is that you should not be offering an expedited option for some more money, because I think you definitely should do that. So the customers which want free shipping, and it's going to take a day or 2 to get there, and they're pretty relaxed, well, they're going to do that. Or you can offer as an upgrade and get it from next day. You might have been offering next day delivery, and they might have been paying for it anyway. So if they've chucked you an extra 3-4 quid for whatever it was, then happy days. It's just a simple way of getting extra money out of a customer for potentially the same service. And Dave, going to go slightly off topic, I also remember with my days of using Parcelforce as a courier, which was very good, by the way, definitely one of my favorite couriers of all time here in the UK, is that I got a better I got a better price for Parcel Force 24 than what I got for Parcel Force 48, and the reason being was the sales manager's point of view is that the faster it got through their network, the better. So I had just a competitive, I had such a great 24 price that we, in the end, because it used to be much cheaper for 48, and then in the end it just got cheaper and more. It just made more commercial sense for it to be sent out via 24. So whether they paid for the upgrade or not, they were having it Parcel Force 24. Peculiar. Right. I do feel it's time we think about wrapping up there, Dave, isn't it? Have we missed any of your questions? And by the way, while Dave's checking the live chat for any questions, if you've got a question about Amazon Prime and you want to ask myself or Dave, you can either do that in two places. You can either ask that underneath this video in the comments section after the video live stream has been finished, or you can nip across to UnderstandingE.com. Again, there'll be a link to that in the video description for you below. And the community forums are always open. Sorry, Dave.
Yeah, I don't think there's any questions. We got a couple of comments, which I'll read out now. Richard talked about the price increase in the US. He thinks it's currently US specific due to issues associated with building out a logistics network in the US to offer better next day and same day delivery. Makes sense. Tink and Stink Maria said, FBA is shocking. I received a refund for an item that was undeliverable by the courier. The said item is in my office and being used. I have had £140 refunded to my account because of a courier error. Interesting.
Do you know what, Maria? I had exactly the same thing with Summit here a couple of days ago, and I forgot what it was. It said it had been delivered. Now, it wasn't their own courier. It was the third-party courier. It was Yodel, which was the courier. I can't, for the life, remember what product it was. Oh no, that was it. It was a bicycle trainer. Anyway, they messaged to say that it had been delivered. I got straight onto the chat and said, no, it hasn't. What are you playing at? The woman refunded the money back, and then the next morning we got another message on my phone saying it's been delivered. I was like, what? I'll go and check. Just get like benefit of the doubt, and they went on and delivered it. So the courier had actually cheated their numbers by saying that they delivered it the day before, but the next morning went on to deliver it. And it was funny because on the bank account I had whatever across 50 quid taken out. Taken out, then refunded, and then another 50 quid taken out, where they'd obviously realised that it then gone on to be delivered. So yeah, that was happy days at that point. But that's the thing, is that that's the other one, is that when it's a third-party product with, from Amazon's point of view, they don't care. They look after the customer, and you as the seller or as the business are a separate concern. And remember, that goes back to my conversation earlier, that theft or leakage of some shape or form is unfortunately just a part and parcel of running a business. Is that there is always going to be someone there who steals from you, and there's always going to be a mistake. So Maria, that's happy days for you, that's for sure. And I'm sure someone else is out there out of pocket by 140 quid, but that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes.
That's it. It does work both ways, doesn't it? Actually got James again for Hobby Base saying, as an FBA buyer, I've been on the receiving end of a clearly customer returned item, one that stunk of cigarettes. It was such a hassle to return it. I had to drive 20 minutes to drop it off. That's curious. I'm surprised they didn't come and collect it. But yeah,
they didn't read them everything in the box. It really is dependent upon what you use in that drop-down box when you're doing a return. I found normally I choose faulty or not as expected.
Yeah. And Richard's put, I had the same happen to me here with the postal service delivery that wasn't delivered. So yeah, I think that is just a general courier issue. Yeah.
And those of you which have worked for a postal service of some shape or form, personally, I've worked for a couple of different couriers, both on the delivery end and in the warehouses as well. You would be mortified what actually goes on. And frankly, I'm amazed that stuff gets delivered. One very curious thing, which is that I picked up from the Amazon guys, is that you cannot cheat the Amazon system. You have to be within 50 meters or so of the house before they can mark it as being delivered. because they've got the little GPS units
on the handheld unit,
and it knows where they are. And because the guy couldn't give it to me, the item at the bottom of the drive, he had to drive up the drive to go and mark it as delivered. The way it is. So yeah, very, very curious. Anyway, time for us to wrap up. Dave, your thoughts on Amazon Prime? Seller's perspective and a buyer's perspective.
From a buyer's perspective, it's bloody brilliant. I love it. I'm sold and will not be cancelling my subscription anytime soon. From a seller's perspective, 100 million Prime members globally. And if your items do not have that little Prime logo, people like me and Matt are more likely to click your competitors if they do have the Prime logo. That's just a reality of it from a sales point of view. So even if it doesn't make sense financially, logistically, to have all your products either seller fulfilled Prime or in FBA, I believe you should have some skin in the game. You should have something in Prime to potentially, hopefully, drive traffic to your other items. That's my personal belief right now.
Yeah, yeah. And by the way, that's
big to ignore.
For a very long time. Prime is not suitable for every single product which you have. Weight, dimensions, velocity, sales velocity may all be determining factors for that. But more popular products, yeah, for sure. Because the brutal reality is that as a customer point of view, from my point of view, is that I'm ticking Prime only on the left-hand side of Amazon. Mainly to get rid of this because there's been Chinese sellers, Chinese sellers turning up on the UK site at least, just to get those out. But also, frankly speaking, because I've paid a mate, excuse me, or as I found out earlier, because I didn't have a clue, £79 a year for the Prime subscription. And hey, customer's point of view, absolute fantastic value for money. Personally, not seeing a good return on that value for the video, and not that impressed by third-party services like we mentioned, like the New Day card, which I managed to squeeze in because that bit really did piss me off because it wasn't on par with the rest of the quality of Amazon. From a seller's point of view, I can't expand really any further than Dave, that you need some skin in the game when it comes to Prime, and it's not going anywhere soon. And it could be, there's different ways you can look at it from Amazon's point of view, whether it's that they're taking the profit out of you as a customer in one lump sum and everything else is like a cursory measure, or they're just using it as funds to be able to expand out their net far and wide and to go into the Echo devices. And we've seen what they did with the ebook reader, which was like a natural progression to what they were doing at the time, to go into video, to go into their web services and whatever else they're playing around with at the moment, and we don't know about yet. So yeah,
I mean, ultimately, it could come to the point in a few years' time we look back and go, wow, voice commerce really took off, and Amazon started that.
Yeah, or it didn't go anywhere. We don't know yet.
Exactly.
But as Dave said, convenience always wins. So suspicion there is it's going to do pretty well, or at least it's going to hang around for quite a while because, like with the Google, Dave, you got the Pixel.
Yep. Pixel Crew.
Chat to your phone. And that's been out on the Nexus. And I had that phone for 3-4 years before, and frankly, I never used it to be honest. But hey, whatever works. Anyway, time for us to wrap up. From myself, Matt, and of course Dave as well, we want to say a big thank you to you for taking the time to watch this live mastermind. As a heads up, we do run these masterminds every single week at exactly the same time, give or take a minute or two. And I also want to say thank you because I've just been here playing with different camera angles just to get the right amount of desk, which I really need to take off. I like
your setup like that. It's good. It's good.
Yeah.
I can't wait till I find my own setup a little bit more permanent. But yeah, it looks good.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've had this workspace here for ages. I just wanted today just to test it out. So apologies if you've seen the camera moving around and things like that. Anyway, it is time for us to go. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch this live mastermind, and we'll see you next Tuesday. For myself, Indeed. Matt.
And for me, Dave, before we go, hit that like button, subscribe, and all that good stuff.
Indeed is. Cheerios.
See you guys.